Okay, please all of you be honest. I thrifted this sweater the other day, and then one of my friends said that I look like a referee. So, thoughts? So I, like many a person nowadays, does have a bookish TikTok account. This is me. You can follow me and some of the other WordNerds on there. And I like making ridiculous content as much as the next person does, but I also like using that platform as a way to have conversations about some problematic slash controversial topics. Book publishing in general, or towards certain authors, or even book talk audiences, because book talk's getting real wild, let me tell you. And a couple weeks ago I uploaded a video on what an author owes to a reader, because I was very tired about seeing all of these people demanding that authors write a certain thing or write a certain way. That video unexpectedly got a lot of views, and there were some great conversations in the comments, and I kind of want to expand on that today and like talk more about it. And before we begin, please take into consideration that these are, first of all, my thoughts, and second of all, the thoughts of a cis white woman. Yes, I may be part of the queer community, but a lot of this specific discourse has to do about race. These are my own thoughts on the topic, doing my own research on this, as well as some of the thoughts of my other non-white friends who have talked to me about this as well. So please feel free to leave your comments in the discussion below, and we'll just have a giant conversation, especially I might forget something, so we'll just talk it out. So the reason I originally made the TikTok was because there was a very big author who released a very big book recently, and people on both sides, whether you read it or you didn't read it, kind of got very angry at the other group, and the stands came out, the social justice warriors came out, and I swear it was like a fight to the death. I also on my own channel did a video about what happens when you like a problematic author, and I don't want to repeat myself or have this be a duplicate video, so if you would like, you can go watch that afterwards. But a lot of people were angry at this author because she is a white lady, and she has not written characters of color or queer characters in her books, except for less than a handful who all die, and specifically who all die to further the main white character's plotline. Everyone that's involved in the book community is kind of angry at this author for not including marginalized groups in her books. And this is where the conversation kind of gets split. And she is a very good example of how far people will go separating the art and the author. Maybe authors that you really love that have made poor decisions in their careers or have tweeted something kind of racist, and you really love their world and their books, but knowing their behavior, you can't excuse that. So what do? A lot of people will say, like, unfortunately, I love your stuff, but I can't continue to support you monetarily because you go against my ethics and morals. And some people say, I don't really care, your product's still good, so I'm gonna buy it regardless. And both of those people are right. You can't force anybody to not buy something or to buy something. And I think it also takes into consideration what your personal ethics and morals are and how far you're willing to separate the art and the author in each individual case. You might be really up in arms that this one author's transphobic, but you may not care at all that this author's kind of racist. And the point that I made in my original TikTok is that authors don't owe you anything. The only thing that an author owes you as a reader is to give you a good story, and they can make that story as white and straight as they want to. Over the last 5 years, and especially right now, there is a huge push and demand for diverse books. Be that books with diverse characters in them, be they like POC, Indigenous, queer, disabled, and books written by those marginalized communities, either about those things or just by those people incorporating their own voices into stories. And we're excited to see more stories that haven't been told before due to issues like racism and the patriarchy and transphobia, etc. People want to see themselves represented in media, and so the demand for people who are not white, straight, and able-bodied is getting bigger as we speak. But the demand for it in publishing, and the way that authors are writing, and the way that readers are consuming is kind of a mess right now, because we know what we want, but we don't know what we don't want. We say we want people of color in our books, but what if they're written poorly by a white author? Is bad representation better than no representation? I think a lot of people would say yes, and a lot of people would say no. Some people feel very strongly about not wanting somebody who is not a part of their marginalized community writing them, regardless of how many sensitivity readers they get. And that demand sometimes can make authors make poor decisions in their writing because they're trying to either reach a quota, or the publishing company themselves said, oh, this needs more diversity, without actually doing the deep dive research into what being a diverse person is. So now we have the question of, is it better for white authors to only write white and straight books and have other people who are not white and straight write their characters? But then that gets into very like separate lines of like, you stay in your lane, you stay in yours. But there are plenty of people that don't fit in either lane or that want to do both. And as somebody who has privilege, you want to be able to use your privilege for good without offending people. And I think that's really difficult because kind of no matter what you do, it's always from a place of privilege. So no matter how much knowledge you have, everything can still come across the wrong way. In my personal opinion, I think diversity should be a given that is in every story, but that's not up to me to decide for other people. So an author can make their book whatever they want. However, they have to be aware of the consequences of their actions, because if they make a book that is purely, say, white and straight, they have to know that a large portion of their reader base will not read it. Readers in particular have to kind of get their mind around this, because it's so easy to see these super hyped books and think that you need every single one, and it's honestly like, I was a little, not scared, but like I definitely felt weird not buying the newest big release by this big author, because you want to be a part of the hype, right? You want to be involved in it. You know, you don't have to buy the book, right? Like, the author themselves are not reaching into your bank account or handing you a book at gunpoint on your front doorstep. Like, you can make your own decisions on who you support and who you buy from, which means that you don't have to continue to support people who, in your opinion, are making poor decisions. Like I mentioned before, especially now that there's a huge demand for diverse authors and diverse books with diverse characters, there are so many people to choose from. It's very exciting now to say that if you want a book with a trans main character, or a book about police brutality, or if you want a book about immigration issues, you can go and find that. And it's okay to still like that author who writes white and straight books, because you might just like the story, and that's fine, because you can like them and you can like other people. And because you have such a large pool of authors and stories to pull from, I think it's kind of unfair for you to ask that white straight author who writes white straight books to put in diversity just because you want them to. If they themselves make the choice to do that to appeal to more people or to expand their own writing, that's up to them. And boycotting them for not doing that is very valid, but it's also their decision to do or not do that. So instead of getting angry at them for not writing a POC character, maybe support a POC author. Expanding what you read, I think, is just good in general, because it allows you to be open to new people and new ways of thinking, ways of life, maybe even self-philosophies that you weren't open to or didn't know existed until you read the book. I always think it's good to learn about other people and other experiences and what people went through. And allyship does not count when you only read two white straight authors that don't put anything in their books, and then you get mad at them for it and then pretend like, oh no, I'm sorry, like I tried, but these people just aren't putting them in their books, so like, I guess I just don't have anybody to read that's diverse. Girl, there are so many options for you if you want to expand your reading, that putting it all on those people is not a good excuse. I've said this in many videos about many things, but you can be critical of what you read and still enjoy it. Like, there are some of my favorite authors have done some things that I do not agree with, or have written some things that I haven't agreed with. And the way that I look at it is, have these people made an effort to change or listen to their reader base? If they do and have, then I continue to support them, because people do make mistakes, but the fact that they've been able to own up to it is important to me. And if maybe these people don't, or they continue to make that mistake, then I have decided that I will not support them anymore. But that's up to me. And if you want to continue to support them, you still have that right. You can also continue to support somebody who is problematic, and also support people who are part of the diverse community that they are problematic towards. That makes sense. Like, it doesn't have to be like an all or nothing kind of thing. What I do get angry on is when you have performative allyship, where you say, oh, this person's awful, I don't like them, they are so problematic, and then you continue to buy their books. I would suggest not doing that. To repeat myself, like in this day and age we have so much media to consume that you can find pretty much anything that you want. And the fact that I'm talking about this on the WordNerd channel with a bunch of writers means you can write whatever you want. If you don't see it, you see a gap in understanding and knowledge of somewhere, then write the book. And a quick side tangent, because I'm sure this video is already so long. We put a lot of focus on authors and their wrongdoings, but I do think we need to shift this into the publishing industry and like what people are picking up, what literary agents are accepting, and I think we need to focus on that a little bit more as well, because those are the people that kind of dictate what the trends are, and they dictate who is going to be popular and what book is going to get the most marketing. So it's also unfair to place all of the blame on somebody who only writes white straight characters if that literary agency is only accepting people who write white straight characters. You know what I'm saying? But then again, that's also up to them and their decision to only accept or write or work with white straight people. So it's like, you know, it's a big mess, it's a big mishmash spiderweb blob. So as readers, I encourage all of you to diversify your shelves and to read critically and to maybe do some deep dives into like why you're angry about certain things. I encourage you to look at the most popular tropes of the most popular books that you love and maybe look for that in other kinds of diverse readings. And as writers, I encourage you to go out and specifically diversify your books. And I have seen some people on my TikTok comment on this particular video about like, well, I'm a white author and I'm so scared to write diversity because I'm so worried that people are gonna tear my book apart and like, oh, boo-hoo, you know, white writer privilege. Like, okay. But I also understand why people are nervous about that, because you don't want to rudely misrepresent something, especially if you're bringing in a culture or a kind of body that you are not, that you don't inhabit. But in this case, there are things like sensitivity readers and editors, and you know, you can also think about what kind of character you're writing. Like, are you bringing in this character as just a stereotype, or are you bringing in this character who also happens to have a disability? Like I said before, please leave down below all of your thoughts and opinions, because this was one of my TikToks that had really good discussions in the comment section, and I love that. I love talking about it. I love getting other people more aware of it. For authors, I think intention has a lot to do with it, but at the same time, there are, you know, even if you do have good intentions, there are still ways that it can go wrong. So like, nuance in this conversation is very important. You can follow most of the WordNerds on TikTok. I highly recommend. It's very fun, you know, see some familiar faces. Okay, I think I need another tea. It's also raining out today and I really want to change it to sweatpants, so we're gonna go do that. Join us at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time here on Sunday for our live chat. Please like and subscribe, and I wish you all a happy reading and happy writing week. Bye!